Hey, this is John from Alloy211. Today's video is about 3D printed guns. I wanted to do this video because this is something that's been in the media lately and is probably going to be coming up again shortly. Just to kind of hit the high points and get people back up to speed if they weren't up to speed already. In June, the State Department settled a lawsuit with Defense Distributed, allowing them to post 3D printed gun files to their website starting August 21st. Then 20 attorney generals filed a restraining order to stop this from happening. In that restraining order, they hit 2 points as to why this should be stopped. One was that the State Department violated the 10th Amendment's protection of an individual state's rights to set its laws, as well as the Administrative Procedural Act, I think I'm getting that right, which says that any rule change the State Department makes has to have a comment and a consideration period before it can go into effect. And they're stating that neither one of these things happened, so thus they have to do these things before they can make a rule change. Now the hearing is scheduled, it was originally scheduled for August 10th, then it was rescheduled for August 21st, which is tomorrow, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to get this video up now. I also kind of wanted to talk, that's kind of getting you up to speed as to what's going on right now with the situation. But then I wanted to talk to what's the real danger of 3D printed guns, or what's the real benefit of 3D printed guns? Now, from Defense Distributed standpoint, they say that this will eradicate gun control as we know it, and blah, 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 blah. From the other side of it, the gun control side of it, they say this will allow unfettered access to firearms from anyone, at any point, at any time, and we need to stop this now. And I find both of these things to be kind of erroneous arguments, and at this point in time, are definitely not true. Now, I'll start with the Defense Distributed standpoint, that this will essentially make gun control pointless. Now that, although in some ways, yes, if you had 3D printers that were capable of actually printing firearms that were reliable and had durability and all of these things, then maybe at least you could say yes, it would make access to firearms more available to people. But right now, in the realm of 3D printed technology, it's not. And they also do have a milling machine that they sell, I believe, which would make the parts out of metal, which then would be more durable and long-lasting, but that is also cost prohibitive at this point, where you would be better off just buying the firearm, and it would be cheaper to just buy the firearm. Then people can make the argument of the ghost gun, that, oh, you can make a ghost gun with a 3D printer, but you can buy an 80% lower receiver right now, and with just a minimal amount of skills, use a drill press and make it. Or if it's a handgun, I think you can even use a just regular drill. But they say regardless that having these 3D printed files available will essentially make gun control a moot point. Which maybe it would. Maybe it would make gun control a moot point. But then they'll just regulate ammunition, which anyone who knows about firearms knows that ammunition is a much harder thing to produce than a firearm. Yes, the components are not that difficult to produce in the bullet or the casing necessarily, but in order to make the powder, that is relatively difficult. And to make the priming compound and to make it consistent and reliable, that is extremely difficult. And it's not something your average anybody's going to be able to do at home. Even if your average anybody could print a reliable, durable, working 3D printed gun, they're not going to be able to make their own ammunition. So, if you did somehow make it so guns were available for anyone, anytime, well, the next regulatory step would just be on ammunition, and that's where it would go. So the reality of this eliminating gun control as we know it, not going to happen. Now, then also the other side of it, that this would allow unfettered access to firearms and this and that, and it'd just be like the apocalypse of ghost guns everywhere. Well, that's also kind of an idiotic statement to make, because right now, illegal firearms on the black market are going to be way cheaper than any 3D printed gun that's going to be reliable or durable in any way. And even at that point, if they wanted to make these ghost guns, they would again use, already available material that you can do and make yourself. Which isn't really that difficult if you have guys at home that can do this with a drill press and an 80% lower receiver. So I really think there's a lot of ado about nothing, especially at this point. And then not only that, from the Attorney General's point of view, where I find this to be just kind of odd, is if you can own these firearms legally now. You yourself, with the right instruments, take the measurements and make the files yourself. At which point, hold on, I'll be right back. Nearly fell. Okay, now I'm back after letting in a cat who was making quite a bit of noise and being pretty distracting. Anyways, what I was saying, with the right equipment, you can take the measurements yourself off the legally owned firearm now and make that file yourself. I program parts for a living for a burn table, so I understand how writing CAD programs work and all that. And all you have to have is the measurements, and as long as you have the measurements and you are proficient in doing this, you could make the program yourself. So at that point, if you made the program yourself and you don't distribute it, is that still illegal? I mean, can you own that program yourself and make your own CAD printed gun? I mean, are these attorney generals saying you can't do that as well? And I find that kind of disturbing. You know, and I think that this is an important subject as to the internet and freedom of speech and the First Amendment and what is available and what is not. And if you were to go on the internet, and I don't do this because honestly I don't want to see the darker side of the internet. I'm sure you can find all kinds of terrible things on there. And yet we're going to try to make it so this other free flow of information, which a court has already decided at one point is not going to significantly affect militarily advantageous files to someone who doesn't have access to them. I don't really see the point in doing this, other than maybe it's grandstanding on the issue. Maybe that's what they're doing, or maybe they have a legitimate feeling or a legitimate concern that this will cause havoc in the streets, and I just don't think it will. Of course, on the other side of it, I also don't think that this is going to eliminate gun control, because I think that's a really ridiculous notion. There are always other things you can control, or you can regulate, and people will, because that's what we tend to do. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. Hopefully the meowing in the early part of the video wasn't too distracting, and hopefully you didn't find this too opinionated or annoying. I just kind of wanted to give my 2 cents on the matter. As do I agree with it in a First Amendment aspect? 100%. Do I disagree with it actually in any way? No, I don't, because it's information, and it's information you could attain on your own. So, you know, that's where I stand on it. If you have a disagreeing opinion, go ahead and comment below, or if you agree with my opinion, comment below. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day.